Hello and welcome to the Business Brunch. I'm Melinda Ward and I am here with Sarah Farmer, who's going to tell us about herself in just a moment. Vanessa Ashworth is supporting us from afar this week. So what are we doing today? Well, the Business Brunch, for those of you who haven't joined us before, we are giving you 30 minutes of great content and business information that you can use, whether you're an independent business person yourself or part of a wider organization. So it's 30 minutes of quality, free professional training, and we're here to bring it to you. So Sarah Farmer is our guest speaker today and our co-hostess. And Sarah's going to be talking to us about blasting the blockers to your success. And do you want to give us a bit of your background and a bit about what we're going to talk about today? And then I'll introduce myself.
Yeah, hi. So Sarah Farmer, for those who've not been on this before or seen me on LinkedIn, because I'm quite prolific on there. I'm an executive coach and I specialize in working with senior leaders, senior leadership teams, helping them develop the mindset, the confidence and the skills to achieve incredible results. And this show is very much about CPD for free over lunch in little bite-sized chunks. It's great. And it's for everybody, as you say. And especially, I think we need to shout out to the job seekers, people who are worried about keeping their jobs at the moment. There's a lot of redundancy and fear of redundancy going on in the world. So this is very much for you as well. And I'll be using some examples today around job seeking and, to make sure it's really, really relevant. So I'll hand back over to you and then we can say hello to who's popping in as well. But who are you? What do you do?
Yes, please let us know you're out there. Now, keep in mind that as per usual, we go streaming on many different channels, about 12 or 13 different channels. As a result, you will only see the comments in the stream in which you are participating in, but we'll see everything. So just give us a note about who you are, where you're from, and if you have any special questions, feel free to drop them in and we will hook them in with Sarah's discussion as efficiently as possible. By the way, I am Melinda Ward. I am the Director of Consulting Solutions and Managed Services at Helm 360. My area of expertise is business transformation, consultant management, just general people management, and business transformation. So let us know where you're from, and we'll go through the first round of comments. We've got Amachi is saying hello and a long distance welcome to Vanessa. Welcome to you. We've got Wagi is back and looking forward to some pearls of wisdom. We've got
very own Vanessa,
who's joining us from afar, which is fantastic. Hi, Vanessa. We're looking forward to having you back next week. Thomas is saying hello and good afternoon. We've got, I'm trying to click buttons as fast as I can.
Thank you. Look in your hair. It's actually the same hair. I just put some effort into it today, but thanks.
Oh gosh.
Should we just whiz through these?
Yeah, I think people coming in. Say who's here because we've got a lot of people, which is fantastic.
We've got Ian Fullerton, Michelle's come in, Danny's in, David Dye's in. Hello, he's calling from Colchester. Cynthia, hello, nice to see you.
From Andy, Michelle, Ian.
Great. Nice to have you all on board. And also, whilst I'm going to talk to you about blocks today and how we blast them away, or some of the, we're going to not talk about everything we need to do to blast them away, but some key stuff. If you've got any blocks to success yourself, let me know, pop it in there. What are you blocking yourself from? Let's see if I can help you today. If you don't want to share that, that's fine. But listen in.
Yeah, this is the perfect time for this discussion because so many people start the year thinking, right, let's make some changes, let's do the things. But it's usually about this time that people kind of lose motivation and lose that energy and drive. And they kind of talk themselves out of doing what they were going to do. Or if you're looking for jobs and you're thinking, look, I really need to make a positive change, people start talking themselves out of things, especially as last week was Blue Monday, and you get the kind of January blues, don't you? So, Sarah, why don't we go straight to you, and you can give us some insights on how to like shift all that and keep moving forward in a positive way.
Okay, will do. So we're looking at what we can do to blast away the blocks from success. We're looking at the problems this causes, why it happens. I'm going to try and pack in as much as I can today, but I want to leave you with some things that you can do as well. We're going to focus today purely on things that you can control and that are within your sphere of influence. So we tend to spend a lot of our time worrying about what it is we can't control, and that is a block to success in itself. Still struggling with the braces, sorry. So the s's are difficult. So the three main ways that I want to focus on today that I commonly see, and I know has happened to me too, that block us from the success that we want and deserve, are not being clear on what we want, where we're going, and why. And this is really a follow-on, an adjunct to what Vanessa was talking about last week. So if you missed that show last week, Vanessa went into this in great detail and showed us her amazing vision board and how impactful and powerful that is, and why it's so important to have that. Not understanding ourselves well enough and how we're perceived by others. People just don't know that well enough yet. Most people don't. Or when we're lacking in or having an overinflated level of self-confidence or self-belief. So either too low or too high. So those are the three things that I'm going to focus on today. And of course, there are other things as well that get in our way. So I'm going to look at each one in turn and have a little chat about that. And if you've got any questions or thoughts on it, then put your notes, put your questions or thoughts into the chat box. I don't want to speak all the way through it because who wants to hear me all the way through? So yeah, ask questions. So first of all, why should we figure out what we really want? Do you know what? It's really interesting. This morning, I just sat down with she's called a virtual assistant. Actually, she's my operations manager. She is amazing, Lorraine Issot. And we talked about what the plans are for this year, because we haven't done that yet this year. I've been too busy. And amazing, just in one session within an hour, we have a page of what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. We're both excited. Now, I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do it all yet, but that's okay. That comes next. But if you think about this, if you don't know what you're doing, where you're going, why you're going there, what you want to achieve, how you're going to achieve it, how do you ever really feel success? You can't. And this is a massive blocker for us, because in our brains, if we don't know where we're going, what we're doing, how we've got there, whether we've got there or not, we don't feel fulfilled or successful.
And this is something I see a lot, even in work projects as well, because people are not clear on what the definition of done is. So if you don't know when you're done, or if you don't know what that milestone is, how can you qualify it? But that really relates to personal development too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The two things are intrinsically linked. And that's what Vanessa was talking about last week, although this is for everybody professionally and personally. She was talking about her own vision board for her own personal success, but we've got to be able to do that in business and personally too. But think about this from a job seeker's point of view, or people that are currently in fear of being made redundant. If you don't know what it is you want, why you want it, how you're going to do it, who you want to work with, how much you need to earn, how much you want to earn, things like that, you're going to be a little step behind everybody else that does. Because there's something that happens when you know this information, is that you start to leak that out. You start to look, and when we talked about the reticular activating system last week, but once your brain knows what it's looking for and where it wants to go, you've got a chance of it taking you there. Of course, you've got to be active. You've got to be doing things. You can't just, it's not just going to manifest and happen. But your brain doesn't know the difference between truth and possibility. I'm not going to call it a lie. I'm going to call it a possibility. So use that knowledge wisely. So think about, what does your life, what is it you want? What are you great at? Where do you want to be? Who do you want to work with? What do you value most? And then imagine what your life would look like if you had all of that. What would you be doing? Where would you be? Create a vision of this future, because that gives your mind something really juicy and positive to look forward to as well. And we can use that in so many ways, but mainly to keep us going when things get tough. I'm not going to come to you because I can see you're coughing. There's a couple of things that have, I think.
Yes.
put up a comment.
Amici has put in a bit of a profile, so if anybody's interested, they can connect with him. He's on LinkedIn. Wagi is mentioning, I'm not sure what are two words in English, should do, and it is linked to why.
Yeah. So we're talking about should and could. Yeah. Could.
Yeah.
Could gives you possibility. Should is like you're telling yourself off. So yes, the words that we use are really important here as well. So what could I be doing? What would I like to do, rather than, oh, I should have done this, I should be earning that.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So
Kimberly's here saying hi as well.
hello, Kimberly. Yeah. So figure out what it is you really want and get clear about that. Clarity brings a real sense of possibility, but then it also brings us to this next bit, which is, do I have the self-belief and emotional self-control and the confidence to be able to go and make that vision a reality?
Yeah.
So the second thing is about being more self-aware and having the emotional self-control, the ability to use that self-awareness wisely. And the question I've got for everybody out there is, how well do you really know yourself? We think we know ourselves quite well, but I can assure you there is so much running unconsciously and subconsciously in your brain that is driving your decision making, creating choices. You're creating choices based on this information that you're believing to be true. And what I see is, when we start to unpick all of that and really see what's going on, the why we're doing things, how we're doing things, our belief structure that's driving our mindset, everything that's going on in our brains actually is running on autopilot. And a lot of what is driving that automation isn't actually helping us.
It's a bit sneaky, isn't it?
I mean,
it truly is, because I think a lot of times it's so subconscious that people will look at an opportunity, or say, for example, a job description, whether it's within the company they're in, like somewhere they might like to go, or somewhere like on LinkedIn or somewhere, and they might think, oh, that looks really interesting. I could do that. I could do that. But then they see one thing, and they, like, one line or something triggers the thought, oh, I tried that once. It didn't go well. I don't dare do that again. I'm just going to move on. Or, oh, they want a degree or a certification or whatnot that I don't have. Oh, that's it. There's no point in me even trying. When, a lot of times those things are a bit like unicorns. Everybody wants the unicorn. Especially the unicorn that poops gold bars, but that one kind of doesn't exist. So the reality is that the nearest qualified person is the one that they really want.
Yeah.
And you could be that, but you have to be able to believe that yourself, or it can never happen.
So you're absolutely right, and what you're describing is this fear response, isn't it? I'm not good enough. I'm not qualified enough. But this is just it's going to cost me money or time to do something. There's all sorts of reasons that we block ourselves, thinking that we're not good enough. But when you learn to understand what you're thinking, why you're thinking it, how you're thinking it, and you can bring that into the conscious mind, you can become more self-aware, which means you're going to make better decisions. You're going to be able to, you can still allow yourself to make decisions that may not serve you. That's your choice, but you're doing it consciously. That's a decision you've made then. That's giving you more control over what happens to you. But what's happening is, when you're holding yourself back and you don't know you're doing it, you're just keeping yourself in a familiar holding pattern. And because with familiarity is safety, our brains love that. They don't want to spend time and energy on things that aren't necessary. So they'll tell you, you'll be telling yourself, it's not necessary. I don't need to do it. I can't win that. I can't achieve it. I'd never get that job. And all it's doing is keeping you in this holding pattern, and usually unnecessarily. So some questions I'd like people to consider, which are, what's the real fear based on? Because this surface level fear or response to something is just a surface level. Underneath all of that, there's so much information. Go digging. Where's it coming from? Where's it shown up before? How's it driving your behavior and the actions that you're getting? What's the impact of doing this? And is it really helping or hindering you? And by asking yourself these questions, that's not a complete set, but it's enough to interrupt the pattern of thought for you to start consciously thinking about what you're doing. And then you've got a chance of making a different decision for a different reason, based on facts that are probably true rather than mistruths you were telling yourself.
And I think people should, it's something that was kind of a newer concept to me, by label. A lot of people are very aware of the concept of fear of failure. Fewer people are aware of their own fear of success. And that is why a lot of times people can put those mental blockers in place, isn't it? Because a lot of times people think, oh, yeah, I'd love to do this. But then you talk yourself out of it.
Yeah,
And
I
isn't
found
that
myself
funny,
doing.
though?
Yeah, yeah, no, we do it all the time, and it's when we understand why we're doing it that we can then make different choices. And I mean, Cynthia's put up a really important point here, is that she knows herself very well, but not completely. We're too complex to fully understand ourselves completely. We
And
are.
will change along the way, too. It's not a static thing. It's not
No,
because I knew
you're
myself
correct.
yesterday or last year that I know myself this year.
Yeah, and I look at myself 3 years ago when I started to be more involved in LinkedIn, and how I showed up then and what I did to how I am now. There's a big difference in those 3 years, because I've grown and I've developed in confidence and competence, not just on the platform, but in what I'm talking about. And yeah, so it's continually evolving, and no, we can never know ourselves completely, but those who never even try to consciously be more aware of how they're coming across, and to other people, can never be as good, in my humble opinion, it's not terribly humble, as those that do. Because I see it all the time. The leaders that I work with on emotional intelligence development become much better leaders. They lead themselves better, and they lead others. David's just put up, we've got a couple of comments actually.
Let's jump first to Sean, saying it's very insightful. Sounds like an emphasis on being intentional in our lives rather than being reactive. He likes Sarah's comments on your comments on understanding ourselves and what we want to do and whom we want to do it with.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Yeah, it is about being intentional, and we are consciously unintentional all of the time. Well, no, we're unconsciously unintentional most of the time. And for those of us that work on being more consciously intentional, I think I'm getting this the right way around. I'll watch this back on replay and go, did I? Then we can start to see things for the reality that is behind them, rather than the mistruths that we are choosing to believe.
Yeah, and what David's saying is really key, and it's been key for me as well over the past year now. That sometimes you need a fresh pair of eyes to see where you really are great, what you really are great at or enjoy, because you can't always see it yourself. Absolutely, and that's where for me it was quite an epiphany to get some professional coaching from Sarah, because there's things that, and sorry, shameless plug, but unintentional.
I'll take it.
But the reason is that I finally realized, I don't know why it took me so long, that the world's greatest athletes are great athletes, but they still have coaches. Why? Because they can't see everything that they could improve on, or they don't have that perspective. And so getting that perspective, whether it's from someone like Sarah or another type of person who can give you clear insight, is actually really important, because we're really good at skipping over stuff or misinterpreting things when really that perspective is what's needed.
Yeah. Amechi is talking about the fear of failure, something we're primed for and equipped. Absolutely. It's an innate response, from the day we were created as man, woman, whatever, Neanderthal person. We were primed to look for something that wasn't safe. So our fight or flight, fear, fawn response was created. But our brains haven't updated to notice what is real threat and real fear. So there's so much going on that people don't learn and don't understand. And when you do, it's so insightful, isn't it? Because you can then start to make different choices and see things differently.
I think, sorry, I hit the first one or second. Yeah, culture fit within groups is the same. We can't see blind spots if we all look at the same stuff. Absolutely, Danny.
Yeah, completely.
And that ties into what I was hit before, which is culture add, culture adapt, culture fit. And all those lead on into each other.
Yeah.
And Sean is saying, I like the story of the weekend of Vic.
Oh,
On the weekend.
so if you didn't see that and you haven't seen that, you go and see it. Vic is my dad. He is, and he's my number one fan on YouTube as well. So he'll be watching this later. So hey, well, wave to Vic. Yeah, he was really touched by that. But yeah, if you haven't read the story of Vic, anybody who thinks they're too old, couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't, go and read that post.
Well, let's put it this way. My mom, who's no longer with us, sadly, but she took up kayaking at the age of 75 because she thought it looked fun and she wanted to try it. And it blossomed into a huge like social group and, you know, a sport that she really loved. But if she sat there and thought, oh, well, am I too old to do that at 75? She would have missed out on a good 10 years of wonderful experiences.
Exactly.
Like, stop saying no is like the lesson that I got from that.
I'm going to just crack on because we're running out of time, but we will come back to these comments as well. But the third point I was going to talk about is developing this greater self-confidence and belief in the value that you add. So many of us don't realize the value we add, which holds us back. But nothing puts people off us more than the fear that we leak or the disbelief in ourselves. It really does, professionally and personally. If you don't have what I describe as this unshakable self-belief without the ego, I describe it as utopia in my book that's coming out on March the 28th. Just thought I'd plug that. We're in danger of leaking one or two things that lead to problems, which are either lack of confidence or overconfidence. They're both unattractive. They both lead to us being less magnetic towards the people that we want to attract, work with, live with, share our time with. So to become more confident and more resilient, we really need to have a good look at what we have achieved in the past. And actually, this is really relevant to what Waggy's just said about back to the feedback issues need to come from a reliable source. The most reliable person to give you feedback is either a coach or someone who is a real a trusted advisor in your life. But you can give yourself feedback when you know how to. Now, we would love it if all leaders would give us the feedback that we wanted and deserved in the way we wanted and deserved it, but they don't. It just doesn't happen, unfortunately. Coaching and feedback are still underutilized in the workplace. But what if you could do this yourself? What if you could take control? What if you could choose to look back every day or at the end of every week and say, what have I done well this week? What am I proud of? And you link that to rewards. If I do this week, I'm going to reward myself, because as Amechi said earlier, we're not primed to give ourselves rewards. We're primed to look for fear and run away in case we're going to die, in simplest terms. So if we can actually start rewarding ourselves on purpose, we don't need someone else to say, yay, well done you. But what we can do is say, what did I do well? Could it have been any better? Might I try it differently next time? And give yourself a reward for doing that. And then you're filling up your confidence bank based on reality, not on hope or mistruths you might be telling ourselves.
Yeah. As Heather was saying, let your enthusiasm and knowledge shine through, which is absolutely true, because so many people talk themselves out of, you know, making a good, you know, statement or comment or presentation or even the small things, but they add up to the big things.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when I've worked with Heather and I've known Heather for a good few years now. And I remember us talking about, we were both starting out on LinkedIn going, well, there's no point putting up what I know because everybody knows that. And then when we talked about what we knew, I didn't know what she knew and she didn't know what I knew. We just assume. So don't, remember you're an expert in your field and be confident to use that. And if anyone needs PR, Heather's your lady.
And also everybody has a different perspective and a different audience. So yes, 50 other people might have put something similar on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's full of millions of people.
Yeah. And they say things differently and it's all good. So
Michelle's got an interesting point. that value and self-worth seems to be a challenge as I get older. I'm naturally confident, but as you get older, I'm more cautious, perhaps more aware of risk. Not like the 20-year-old who is like invincible, I guess.
Well, we think they are, but they're not. I mean, I look at my 16-year-old who is anything other than invincible, and yet on the outside, you might think so.
Yeah. Love the advice, Ria, self-review, and we're all learning every day, absolutely, like in sport, what went well, what can I improve?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we've got Cynthia said something about the FUD factor, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Yeah. Just looking at that comment, being able to, it allows you to be courageous moving forward in spite of fear. Absolutely. And this isn't about never feeling fear. This is about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. That's okay. But
it's acknowledging it, saying, I see you, but I'm not going to let you win or control me completely.
So I just want to summarize this, and then we'll come back to
we've got about 3 minutes left.
3 minutes left. Okay. So everything I've just said, those three things, and of course there's more to talk about, but we've only got half an hour. But all of these things are so much easier if you've got a plan in the first place. So it's chicken and egg, which comes first. I'd start with a plan, but be prepared that monkey brain, the chimp, the limbic system, the emotional center will go, you can't do that, you're not good enough, you don't deserve it, possibly. So that's when the self-confidence, self-awareness, understanding of where your truth is coming from all kicks in. But know where you're going and why. Know yourself better and keep learning to lead yourself better, because we're never done, as Cynthia said earlier. It's never, we're never fully cooked on that. Value what you can add to the world. Don't just assume because you know it that everyone else does, because they don't, and they may not know it the way you know it. So share. And if you don't share what you know, no one's going to know that you knew it. So you're not gaining anything. And once you do all this, you'll be amazed at how these blocks to success start to melt out of the way, and for good, because you keep doing this. New blocks come up, but you work on them. And if all else fails, get help. Speak to a mentor, speak to a coach, go on a training course, invest in yourself, learn how to do this, because I've been investing in myself to learn how to do this for years, which is why I now help people do it. And it is so flipping liberating. It's not perfect by any stretch in here, I can assure you, but it's liberating to be able to do this, talk like this, share like this. And help other people. And I couldn't have done that if I hadn't had help to do it. So final comments. We've got David. Hello, David.
Where'd he go?
Oh, and Yumi's in as well. Hi, Yumi. Promote ourselves. Yes. Okay, so Dave's saying, oh, this is so true. I did it all the time. I think everyone knows what I know, but then others, tell me how great it's exactly. Don't be afraid to shine, because if you don't shine, someone else will. And I'm actually saying it's time and place for hope. Yeah, it's not a great strategy, but it's useful.
There's a comment I've dropped in for to reframe, with age comes experience.
Do you know, I was looking at myself the other day. You get wrinkles around here. I don't know if you can see them. But I was like, oh, wrinkles. And I thought, I was speaking to my friend Louise Needham, and I said, what do you see when you look at this? And we both decided we see life and experience. So I'm going to wrinkle away nicely there, because without that, I have no life or experience. These are my lifelines. And with lifelines come experience and knowledge that you can share.
And smile lines come from, guess what? Smiling. So that's the indication of a happy life and a life well lived. So we should be embracing those. And final comment, because we're right at the top of the hour. Final comment from Danny. Less than 1% of LinkedIn users create any content. Sit with that for a minute, because that's a big point. Just sharing your knowledge puts you in the top 1%. So go for it. Yeah. Why not?
I love being in the top 1%, Danny. Love that.
What have you got to lose?
Exactly. So listen, I hope you found that useful. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the great comments. And thank you for those people who've joined us for the first time today. Great to see you, and I'm grateful that you got involved. If we haven't said hello and seen your comment, we'll go back into the post and do that now. And we'll see you all next week. Not entirely sure what the topic is, but it's going to be ace.
Next week, it's going to be in the same realm, but carrying on the theme and thinking about, I'm going to be talking about how to change that mindset of we've always done it that way, and how to kind of start looking at things and trying new things and getting out of that comfort zone in a bit. So these topics, you'll notice a pattern, they all go together to help you lead a more rewarding and successful life.
Awesome.
So
Thank
you very much for your time and effort, and we shall see you next week.
See you next week. Have a great day,
Share this
everyone.
with your contacts and colleagues who you think will benefit. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.